Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the San Bruno City Council meeting of July 23rd, 2013. I'd like to thank the Garden Club for the flowers they always provide for our meetings. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Salazar.
Here.
Vice Mayor O'Connell. Here. Mayor Ruane.
Here.
Councilmember Medina.
Here.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Here.
Carrie Burns, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a few announcements this evening. First of all, the regular City Council meeting of August 13th is canceled. The second announcement is the Beautification Task Force is accepting nominations for the annual Beautification Awards program. Applications can be found on the website as well as in the City Clerk's office, and the deadline is Friday, August 30th, 2013 at 5 p.m. One additional announcement, I just want to tell everyone that I flew in this morning from Denver, Colorado, where I was asked to attend and speak at the National Association of Regulatory Utility Commissioners. And I think the talk I gave, along with a couple of others on the panel, were very well received. Talked about our experience in San Bruno during the blast. All of the commissioners were from around every state of the union, and they were very, very interested in what we had to say about what happened and our take on it, and going forward, what we expect to happen in the regulatory community around the country. So I wanted to let you know that. Thank you. Presentations this evening. We do have a presentation, present a proclamation declaring August 6, 2013 as National Night Out in San Bruno, and I'd like to read that. National Night Out in San Bruno, Tuesday, August 6, 2013, whereas the Citizens Crime Prevention Committee plays a vital role in assisting the San Bruno Police Department through joint crime prevention efforts in San Bruno, and whereas the Citizens Crime Prevention Committee promotes the development of neighborhood watch groups, and whereas the Citizens Crime Prevention Committee is supporting the National Association of Town Watch's nationwide crime prevention program entitled National Night Out, and whereas the Citizens Crime Prevention Committee is encouraging established neighborhood watch groups to coordinate National Night Out activities, and whereas the Citizens Crime Prevention Committee is encouraging all San Bruno neighbors and neighborhoods to participate by turning on outside lights and meeting their neighbors. Now therefore, we, the San Bruno City Council, do hereby call upon all citizens of San Bruno to join the Citizens Crime Prevention Committee, the National Association of Town Watch, in supporting the 30th Annual National Night Out on Tuesday, August the 6th, 2013. Further, let it be resolved that we, the San Bruno City Council, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, August 6, 2013 as National Night Out in San Bruno, and I encourage all neighborhoods to participate by turning on outside lights and meeting their neighbors. And accepting this for the committee is Brandon Lau. Brandon?
I'd like to thank the mayor and the council and the citizens of San Bruno, and I really hope that everybody will have a chance to come out, meet your neighbor, maybe get a burger, have a little fun with your friends, and get to know everybody in your neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item number 5, review of the agenda. If there's no objection, I'd like to move item number 11, which is our annual report of the Planning Commission, to right after number 8, public hearings. Approval of the minutes of the City Council meeting of July 9th, 2013. Any errors, corrections, omissions? Seeing none, to be approved as submitted. The consent calendar. All items are considered routine or implement an earlier council action and may be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion unless requested by a council member, citizen, or staff. Mr. Lupke.
Alan Lupke, Fleetwood Drive. Item number 7C.
Would you like to pull that?
Pardon me?
Would you like us to pull that item?
Pull?
Pull it?
Yes.
Okay.
Put it on the regular agenda.
Okay. Anything else?
Through the chair, I'd like to pull item I. I'm sorry, where am I? Item F. Apologize.
Okay. We're going to pull item 7C and 7F. Any action on the remainder of the consent calendar?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Item C is waive the second reading and adopt ordinances. A, ordinance imposing a 2.61% rate increase to Recology Garbage and Recycling Services for 2013-2014 to be effective September 1st, 2013. And B, ordinance imposing a 4.48% rate increase for Recology to initiate an organics program to be effective January 1st, 2014. Mr. Lubke?
I'm Alan Lupke, Fleetwood Drive. Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, my fellow Recology customers. A few words are appropriate about the July 9th hearing. It was a sham. Yes, in my opinion, the hearing was a sham and demonstrated a love fest between City Council and Recology. As Citizen Peterson observed, the situation was murky. He said that Proposition 218 is the law, but it pretends to be a vote of the people. He said that because of its form, the notice was sent out, was easily buried with a lot of other material, and there was no envelope in which to put a response. He suggested that for this reason, the issue be given another look. On the evening of July the 9th, 2013, at the entrance to this room were slips of paper obviously left over from town hall meetings on which citizens could state that they wanted to speak to issues and had asked them to what they intended to say. The moderator began to read, and I began to read my comments as if it were a town hall meeting rather than a public meeting. I interrupted him and walked to the podium saying I could speak for myself. I was only given 1 minute, but I took 3. And so did all the others that followed me. When the distinguished Mr. Peterson, who is more than a decade-long member and former chair of the Planning Commission, suggested that the council would adopt ordinances regardless of the inputs of citizens, calling the proceedings a slam dunk, he was verbally upbraided by Mayor Ruane, who said something to the effect, "You of all people." I see this castigation of Mr. Peterson by the mayor as clearly an abridgment of the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. Who would want to follow Mr. Peterson and subject themselves to the possibility would they be denigrated as when they spoke? It took a question by one of the citizens at the hearing to reveal that there was only one positive response out of 347. In my opinion, staff was not forthright. The notice itself had the appearance of a Recology-produced product. No date, no typewritten San Bruno heading, no signature, no name of a San Bruno official. And finally, the capstone of the appearance of coziness was when the mayor called upon the COO of San Bruno Recology to speak and beckoned her and further addressed her as Kirsten, her first name. For these reasons, I suggest the issue be given another look, a do-over, before Recology commits to the purchase of new trucks and 12,851 buckets to place under one's sink or in one's freezer.
Thank you. Anyone else on item C? Any action by the council? on
Through the
item C?
chair.
Ken?
I needless to say, I regret not being here for that meeting. I have read the minutes, I have viewed the tape, and as difficult and challenging as it is for some of the residents in this city, and I know it's going to be, a challenge for me to even take it on. But I agree with the council, and I agree with Recology that this is a program that is needed, and it started sooner than later. So I just, for the record, would like to state that I'm in favor of what the council approved at the last meeting. With that, I would move to accept.
Second.
The motion is second to accept item 7C. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We've been asked to pull item 7F, adopt a resolution authorizing the closure of 200 lineal feet of the 200 block of Santa Ynez Avenue on Friday, August 9, 2013, between the hours of 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. for Happy Hall School's 62nd anniversary party. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With Mary Johnson in the audience, I would love to have her have the opportunity to come up and let us know about the 62nd anniversary of Happy Hall School.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. Thank you for the opportunity of being able to come here and present our event. I didn't realize I was under the consent calendar. I should have taken a closer look and realized that. Happy to know that it's under the consent calendar. We had our first block party, although we've had an annual party for 62 years, 40 years that I've been at Happy Hall. Last year was the very first time that we actually closed the block of Santa Ynez, the 200 block. And we did one house from east to west, so it was just like maybe 80% of the block, and to create safety factors. And it was a fabulous event. It was fun. It was exciting. We had a grand time. The neighbors participated, and it really was a marvelous event. And I am so pleased to know that we have again submitted an application to close it this year. And it was I've passed forward the invitation that went to our neighbors in advance of me coming here this evening, so they've had the opportunity to see this. And of course, our community is also welcome to attend. It's hard to believe that Happy Hall's been there 62 years, and I've been there 40 of those 62 years. And the children perform. There's just a good old-fashioned block party. And if you have family and children in our community, our audience in home could see this, they're happy. I'm happy to have them attend. So I welcome any questions. And last year, we didn't have any complaints. We didn't have any cleanup issues. We had a crew, and I felt like I was a professional Pac Bell, being able to do it just like Pac Bell does it. So I'm happy
Without
to
the
answer any.
seagulls, right.
That's right.
Good. Any questions for Mary? Any action on this item?
Move to approve item F.
Second.
Motion is second on the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations.
Yeah,
once
thank
again.
you so much.
Item 8, public hearings. We don't have a public hearing this evening. We're going to move right to item 11, which is report of commissions, boards, and committees. We're going to receive the annual report from the Planning Commission.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to present our 2012 report. We're going to share with you the 2012 summary as well as the outlook for 2013. So as you are aware, following with the makeup of the Planning Commission, myself as the chair, Commissioner Biassadi as our vice chair, Commissioner Marshall, Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Chase, Commissioner Peterson, Commissioner Samud, as the rest of the panel, as well as Council Member Kanibara as our liaison. So in 2012, the two major activities were one being the recommended approval of the Transit Corridor Plan, the EIR, and the general plan amendments that were passed, that were seen twice in the commission meetings and approved for and recommended approval to the City Council. The Transit Corridor Plan has been in the making for a while. As you are aware, we've gone through a lot of steering committee meetings. Commissioner Chase and myself were on the steering committee for 2 years. Until it went in hiatus and then came back online. And last year we finally were able to make a recommendation. There was a lot of community back and forth. We, I believe, had 4 community sessions, if I'm not mistaken, or 3. And there were a lot of steering committee meetings where we went back and forth trying to deliberate essentially what we wanted the downtown character to be, what kind of economic vitality that we wanted to preserve or enhance while preserving the San Bruno charm. We wanted a transit corridor plan that enabled the citizens to live, work, and play in a safe neighborhood where they can walk, bike, enjoy the environment, the windy environment as it stands, but also bring up the neighborhood because it needs a lot of economic influx, and we need our plan to support that kind of economic progress, more or less. The second item that was a major achievement was the approval of 3 more houses. In 2011, we approved quite a bit of them, and this is sort of the latter part of it. 2013, we'll get into more of the goals of 2013 for this area. There were about 12 applications that we processed in 2012. Sort of relates. 12 total applications for the year. It was lesser than previous years, 4 or 5 years ago, but nevertheless, we feel that the economy is turning around. With that, we'll move on to the goals for 2013. Based on City Council direction, we'd like to see what the third phase of that development is going to be, how we're going to convert the rest of the lots into usable spaces, single-family homes, parks, whatever that may be, whatever the community decides is the direction. And one of the other goals for the Planning Commission is also the update to the zoning code amendment. We plan to hold more study sessions like we did a couple of years ago and last year. We need to review the language that and revise the language and hopefully forward a recommendation for approval. Lastly, we want to continue processing quality applications. Just to give you an update of where we are this year. Last year we processed 12 throughout the year. This year we're up to 15 for the year. So we can sense what the market's heading. So we're looking forward to more applications in the second half of the year. And then lastly, I'd like to thank City Council for setting direction, providing us the support we need in order to facilitate a better living environment for all of us. And we're looking forward to the zoning code update and the implementation of the transit corridor plan. I'm available for any questions.
Good. Any questions? Ken?
Through the chair. Again, another busy year. Congratulations on getting through that one. And I have to apologize, I was an absent liaison, but I was very familiar with everything that you were working on. One question I had is that with the advent of the design guidelines, how does the commission feel about the projects that are forwarded from staff? And has there been any, in your opinion, any difference in some of the projects, changes, level of design, or what have you?
I think the residential guidelines in particular, they've allowed the publication of that guideline is helping the staff communicate better with the applicant to say what sort of a direction the City Council and the Planning Commission has for the city. It also gives them leeway in terms of the design because we've structured the document in such a way that it's not a catalog where you pick from, but rather a document that facilitates growth of ideas. There are some folks that still try to get in the square buildings in through, and the planning department has, I feel, has a document that they can go to that they have a pushback and allow better designs to come through. The document should always be revisited and updated, but I think we have to let it go through for at least a year or two and figure out what those loopholes or deficiencies are at that point and revise them. But I feel that it was a worthwhile path that we took. It's a good document. It's available for everybody, so please look at it. And if there are recommendations, we'll be happy to bring it up and discuss it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Irene?
Considering what you just said and all the work that was put into the architectural guidelines, is there another tool you can envision that we should be looking forward to, that we should, add to the toolbox, so to speak?
I think the general plan amendments that we recommended last year is helpful. One of the things that is difficult to sort of convey because it's not a specific plan, and that's where the transit corridor plan comes in. The transit corridor plan is a specific plan, which is for this designated area, and because of its purpose, it is more fine-tuned and will help the residents and help the planning department enforce those guidelines. So I'm looking forward to the next document, which is a more specific plan, similar to the residential guidelines, but will help enforce and create a more vibrant community. So I'm looking forward to that. I hope that, we had a specific plan where it was the 10 Friend Mall, et cetera, spaces. That was successful. I hope that if there are pockets of San Bruno that need specific plans like that, it'll be helpful to get that started.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Well, thank you very much for your presentation, and thank you and all of the members of the Planning Commission. I know it's one of many commissions in this city that, in fact, is the lifeblood of what this is all about. It's all volunteerism, and I know, having sat on the Planning Commission a number of years ago, that you actually get out into the neighborhoods and see what's going on. So it's exciting, it's a lot of work, but it's rewarding, and we thank you very much.
Thanks, it's our pleasure. Thanks.
Item number 9, public comment on items not on the agenda is the council's policy to refer matters raised in this forum to staff for investigation and or action. Where appropriate, the Brown Act prohibits the council from discussing or acting upon any matter not agendized pursuant to state law. Would anyone like to address the council under public comment? All right, seeing no one, we'll go right to conduct of business. Our first item is 10A, appoint citizens to fill vacancies on commissions, boards, and committees. Looks like we have one vacancy to fill on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee and 3 vacancies to fill on the Citizens Crime Prevention Committee. Would someone like to make some recommendations or nominations?
I was just thinking, I know Ken wasn't here. Carol, would it be possible just for you to update the council member on who interviewed last meeting? Because I know he wasn't here, if you have that.
No, I know who interviewed,
Okay.
although
Never
I
mind. Thank you.
didn't
He's
see
ahead
the
of the game.
applications, so I'm going to defer at least the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, since I did not participate in that interview, and I'm really not prepared to make a recommendation on that one.
Irene?
I'm wondering if we should postpone that. We have 2 people here, and they've listed it as their 6th choice and their 8th choice. And I don't know if they really want to participate that much, if that's how low down on their list the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee is. So maybe we can postpone that since it's only one vacancy. I don't know.
It's a
I
feeling
would-
of the rest of the council.
Through the chair,
Michael?
if we could get the city clerk's input on that. I believe you contact the applicants and find out if they are interested in the positions that are open prior to bringing it to us?
Every application that we had in file, they were all notified. The majority of them withdrew their names. They weren't interested. Where we thought that we had applicants, we did not have applicants. So the 2 we had, one had been on file for a while, and one was a new one that you interviewed.
Okay.
Through the chair, if I could, being familiar with what the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee does, I would strongly suggest that we get someone that really wants to be on that committee and is experienced in knowing what it entails and has some idea as far as the in infrastructure as far as bicycle paths and pedestrian areas. So I can appreciate someone that wants to be on a committee just to serve, but I think this one is, in my opinion, is something that should be more focused on someone that really wants to be on that specific committee.
So is it the council's wish to put this particular one off until we get a little bit more input from other applicants? Is that
Yes.
right? Okay. We need 3 vacancies filled on the Citizens Crime Prevention Committee. You have the names in front of you, and you've all been to the interviews. Any nominations?
Through the chair,
Michael?
I would like to nominate Roberto Don Lucas.
Roberto Don Lucas,
Second.
second. Okay, anyone else?
Would you like nominations to fill all 3?
I think it would make sense to do all the nominations, and then we know who our candidate pool is, and then we vote from there.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, any other nominations?
I can't pronounce them.
Through the chair,
Oh, good.
there are 2 other applicants who listed crime prevention as their first choice, and so I will also nominate Naweed Amin.
Okay,
Second.
Second.
okay, we have a motion second. And a third nominee?
Through the chair, I will also nominate Sihar Muzaffar.
Second.
Okay, any other nominations? No? Okay,
Move to approve the nominations.
Second.
motion second to approve the nominations as submitted. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Good. Congratulations to all of those. And as we always say, please keep your name in the hopper because we definitely need you on other boards and commissions and committees. Thank you very much for your participation. Item 10B, you're going to receive an oral report regarding City Council Subcommittee review of the salary and benefits for the elected city clerk and city treasurer positions.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, we're providing an oral report this evening to give you an update on, am I supposed to be starting? I'm sorry. The purpose of this report is an update on a review by a City Council subcommittee appointed by Mayor Ruane to make a scheduled consideration of the salary and benefit program that is offered to the elected city clerk and the elected city treasurer positions. By resolution and action of the City Council in 2006, you identified an intent with each 4-year election cycle at which time the elected city clerk and elected city treasurer positions are on the ballot, that the City Council would make a review of the salary and benefits program in a timely manner at the opening of the filing season in order that any interested individual in San Bruno who would qualify for one of those positions has an opportunity to know before taking out papers and before standing for election what is the salary and benefit program. In 2006, the City Council established a 4-step salary range for each of the positions, and that salary range has been in effect since that time. In 2009, the City Council undertook the scheduled review for the then current election season and declined to take any action to amend the salary and benefit program that had been put into effect in 2006. We're bringing this item to you tonight in order that you could discuss and hear and then discuss the subcommittee's recommendation as to the salary and benefit program for these positions going forward. It's my intent tonight simply to give you that background as I just did, and then to briefly outline the consensus of the subcommittee, which consisted of council members Ibarra and Salazar, and then to turn over any additional discussion to them and to the City Council as a whole. That subcommittee meeting took place last Thursday afternoon. That is the reason for the oral report as opposed to a written report in your packet this evening. And the subcommittee, upon consideration, is recommending that the City Council consider an annual cost of living adjustment based on a cost of living index to be determined, not yet determined, up to an amount of not to exceed 2% to be provided on an annual basis beginning at the conclusion of the 5th year of any incumbent service in either the elected clerk or elected treasurer office, only to the 4th step or the top step of the salary range. So in order to try and explain the effect of that, the subcommittee is recommending that the 4-step salary schedule remain in effect for any newly elected clerk or treasurer, and that the progression through those steps would occur on an annual basis until the 4th step at the end of the 4th year is achieved. At that time, then, should that individual stand for and be reelected, stand for election and then be reelected, a cost of living adjustment would be provided to the top step or the then current salary of that reelected incumbent at the end of the 5th year of their service or the 1st year of their 2nd term, and then each annually thereafter, as long as their elected service continues. In that manner, I believe it was the intent of the subcommittee to differentiate the benefits and salary program for the elected individual, for those elected positions, and to recognize the benefit of continuing service to the city in elective office. The City Council subcommittee also considered the provision of a benefit that is not currently extended to those 2 elective positions, but that is extended to the elected officials who are on the City Council, the mayor and the City Council members. And that benefit is a opportunity to take advantage at no cost of the city's internet service through the cable television company and a reduced rate for the provision of cable television services. This program is offered, as I indicated, to City Council members and in different, at different levels to certain individuals on our city staff. The intent behind that opportunity, as I understood it from the discussion of the subcommittee, was to recognize the need and the benefit to the city and to the city's work program of those 2 elected officials like yourselves being available at the city's option via internet. So at all hours, at all away from the office, that those individuals can be communicated with reliably via internet service. So with that, I'll just say one more thing, and that is that should the City Council consensus provide some direction to staff, we would return with an action item at your next regular meeting, but being as that is on August 27th and therefore after the close of the filing period for the 2013 November election, it would be desirable tonight for you, as a matter of public information, to provide some signal about what your intent is, so that, again, the intent of the 2006 action can be delivered to the public, and somebody who may be interested in running for one of those elective offices would have an opportunity to have an idea about what the salary and benefits program would be should they be elected to that office. So with that, I'll turn it over to the subcommittee for any additional comments.
Okay. Rico or Michael? Ken, I'm
Well,
sorry. Rico,
I just
Ken?
like to reiterate what the city manager said. I'm Ken.
You're Ken. I'll get it right.
Is that the consensus of the subcommittee was to not change the salary for the first 4 years. Keep it as it is from 2006 at those 4 steps. The added, for those first 4 years, the added benefit would be the free internet and the reduced cost for full cable TV service. And then my comment as far as I don't believe, I know there was some talk about a 2% cap in subsequent years after the first 4 years, but then there was also some discussion as to how that might compare with no increases with the rest of the employees, the other bargaining units. So that's something that needs to be discussed, and maybe there's a condition in comparison with other bargaining units in the city. One thing that, in my opinion, we wanted to do was to once and for all separate these elected officials from any implication of being compared with management or mid-management bargaining units. So I think we're going towards that goal.
Michael?
Thank you. I'll echo what Councilman Navarro said regarding the separation of the career employees that are represented by the bargaining units versus an elected position, which I felt is different enough. And in general, I mean, it's a position that's really contingent on the public's opinion of that person's performance. And you know, after the 4 years, they're up for election, and they have to go and demonstrate to the people that they are worthy of maintaining the position. So it's really a 4-year appointment, if you will, that has to be redone every 4 years. And so it is different enough, I felt, from the other positions, the permanent city positions, that we should make that distinction and not tie them to that. One of the reasons I felt that we should come forward with the recommendation that we did is because if someone were to stay in that position after the initial term, if someone were to be reelected to a second term, their salary would be stagnant at that point, and possibly be something that would make people think twice about wanting to run for more than one term. And there's clearly a benefit to having one person stay for longer than a single term. If we assume that over that first 4 years they're going to be learning the job, maybe they get really good at it, and people come to recognize them as a person that they go to at City Hall. And then if we were to have that position turn over regularly, it probably wouldn't be as efficient. And then in terms of maintaining the current structure, the city clerk did provide us a salary survey for other clerks in the county, and so we were able to compare it, what we were doing with our base salary versus what the other cities are doing. And our top step right now matches closely, although possibly a little bit below what the other cities are doing. So we can assume that at the end of a 4-year term, we're paying what other cities are paying a seasoned, experienced city manager. So the salary does seem city clerk. So they do seem reasonable in terms of what everyone else is doing, and then the cost of living would then just be an adjustment to make sure that that position doesn't fall too far out of sync. One thing to note, because we are keeping that same scale, if a new city clerk were elected, that person would be starting at the bottom of the scale, the first step, and then have to work their way back up. So this change only affects city clerks that are reelected to a second or third term.
Two questions, I guess. The comparison of city clerks, was that a combination of elected and appointed clerks?
Yes.
Okay. And so let's, just for example, for the public's, consumption here. So if the existing city clerk were to be reelected, she wouldn't get a increase for another year?
So the term right now, it's a 4-year term, and the increase occurs on the anniversary of the election. So it would,
What I'm getting at is
I'm sorry, is it?
retroactivity, is that,
We didn't discuss anything being retroactive, so at least my understanding was that it would be on the first anniversary of the election, so there would be no immediate increase,
Right.
but 1 year from this next election, there would be an increase.
okay.
That was my understanding.
Right, so that would, in effect, then, if I'm doing the math correctly, you would, step 1 would occur at election, step 2, the end of the beginning of the second year, beginning of the third year, beginning of the fourth year, and then not until the end of the fifth year, so there would be a gap there. Is that correct?
I
Is
guess,
that your intent?
it's complicated, but when is the fourth step awarded?
The fourth step is awarded at the beginning of the fourth year of service, at the conclusion of the third year of service.
Okay, and for all intents and purposes, we're talking about if our current city clerk were to be reelected, she is starting her 9th year.
That's correct.
Which means what?
Which means that if this goes into effect, then I guess the rhythm of these increases, first, second, third, fourth step, then it would seem that if it was to stay in the same pace, that the start of the 5th year would be the increase.
In order to avoid any gap,
Yeah.
it would need to start at the beginning, or at the conclusion of the fourth year, at the beginning of
So
the fifth year.
I somewhat question, the end of the 5th year or the beginning of the 5th year.
Carol?
I don't believe that I should, or the city treasurer should have a cost of living raise when the rest of the city didn't get a cost of living raise. That's something that we never came back to you in 2010 because none of the other people were getting raises and we didn't feel that we should have one either. So that really took care of the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th year.
I understand that. What I was getting at is that this is kind of a one-off. In other words, you're talking about going forward for a new city clerk. So that clerk would start 1, 2, 3, 4, and then re-elected, but you're going for the 3rd term. So I just didn't know when that kicked in because this is a kind of a special circumstance.
Yeah,
I
given
would
the clar-
assume it'd start when the new term starts.
True. Right. Yeah, and given that clarification, I think that makes more sense than what we had proposed before. That's at every anniversary, there is some adjustment, and we've covered only the first 3 anniversaries. Nothing happens on the 4th anniversary, and so it would make sense for what we're proposing to kick in at the 4th anniversary, not the 5th anniversary, as I had initially said.
Okay.
And for clarity, there is no retro. We're not, the city clerk, the current city clerk, if reelected, is not asking for years 5 to 8.
Okay. Irene, any comments?
I'd like to hear Mr. Lumpke.
Oh, Mr. Lubke, do you have something?
Yes, I'm just interested, since I'm planning to, at this time, planning to file, but I am interested from the fact that someone listening to this report won't understand what is going on. Can we talk in terms of an incumbent who's been here, been incumbent for 4 years, or for, let's just say for 4 years, does that person do a start over and go in the when reelected, go to the base salary? Or do they go to an increase salary? In other words, a fifth level.
Okay, we'll try to
Do you
clarify that.
understand my question?
No, that's what I was getting at too. What happened? This
Well,
is
that's what I thought you were getting at, but I didn't I couldn't follow you.
okay. All right, we'll get it. We'll get an answer for you.
To the chair, Mr. Mayor. Okay.
Ken?
Currently, the way the ordinance reads and the salary structure is that there are 4 steps, and every newly elected city clerk starts at step 1. Through each year of the term, the 4 years, is a step. And so at the 4th year, the beginning of the 4th year of that term, that is currently now it's $8,000. If it stays the way it is, and it has stayed the way it is since 2006, year 5, it's $8,000. Year 6, it's $8,000. So year 7, there is no increase from the 4th year on for any re-elected city clerk.
The base remains a higher level, though. The base remains a higher level.
Right. So if there's any new city clerk elected at an election, then they start at step 1. What we're addressing as a subcommittee is to increase any year after year 4.
Thank you.
Okay. Michael, agreed?
Right. And to add a little more color to that, I questioned why we needed a 4-step salary structure for an elected position where the duties are clearly defined by law. And the rationale, which I agree with, is that a person starting would be very inexperienced, not providing as much value as they would be after completing a 4-year term, where they would then be more experienced, and therefore they, over their 4-year term, it's a merit-based increase for those 4 years. And then, of course, if following that rationale, on year 5, we wouldn't expect them to go back to their year 1 experience, but rather continue to be experienced persons, and we adjust from the 4th year level going forward.
And just for a little added color, the percentage increase between each step is 6%. Between 1 and 2, 6% all the way. So it's what is that, 24% increase from, 18% increase from step 1.
Irene, did you have something to add?
I do. First of all, I think the internet added on is an excellent idea. That means that after 5 o'clock, we can still email the city clerk and expect a response. Is that what that means? So anyway, the internet thing is great. I have as you all know, well, maybe Michael doesn't know because he hasn't been here for that long, but I have a philosophical problem with any elected officials getting raises and steps. And I realize that part of the city clerk's, any city clerk's job in this city anyway, is to maintain office hours, and they are there from 8 to 5, which is why we have more of a salary than we do for city council people. I've been on this board, Ken and Jim and I have been on this board for 18 years now. We'll be starting our 19th year, if you guys get reelected, our 19th year. And we have not had one raise since we started. And personally, I don't think we should, but we definitely are much more experienced than we were at our first year. So Philosophically, I'm totally opposed to any increases. Our regular, and correct me if I'm wrong, the way life is set up right now, our managers go to the top step and that's where they sit. They don't get any raises over that. Is that correct, City Manager?
It is correct. However, the salary and benefits program for the managers in our organization is, like all of our employees, subject to bargaining unit agreements, which from time to time may be negotiated and may provide changes to salaries or benefits. It is also the case that there have been no salary changes, I believe, for any city bargaining unit since 2008.
Okay. So I cannot philosophically give it to an elected official when our other people don't have it, and there is no qualifications for running for city clerk or city treasurer. You have to be 18 and a resident of San Bruno and a registered voter. That's it. And then you go out and campaign, and if you win, you win. And that's all there is to it. So I'm opposed, except for the internet.
Rico, comments?
I probably don't have a firm position because we all know Rico likes to see things in writing, and with listening to the dialogue, it'll be important what comes back. What I do want to point out is, I believe, I'm almost sure, it was the Vice Mayor and I who in '06 sat with the city treasurer and the city clerk and reviewed this. It came back that, if my memory's correct, that in '09 we were supposed to have this come back and be reviewed between May and June. Reason being, prior to the filing period opening, so that everybody can be communicated exactly what the benefits and what the salary and or compensations are. So with this coming during the filing period, which will now be after the filing period, I think defeats that purpose. I don't know that we did, as the city clerk mentioned, since there really was no change in '09, there may not have been anything that came back, and I don't know if it met, I just don't remember, but I remember the '06.
There was an item that came forward in 2009. There was no change to the 2006 program.
Right, so, can't speak, and I just don't remember that. Just the '06, I do happen to recall, and I know it was, action was, and review was to be done prior to the opening file period, for the reason of wanting people to know. I don't, if this were to be automatic, out the 5th year on, I don't agree with that. If we have city employees, as was already mentioned, that are furloughed, if we're salary freezed, if we're in hard economic times, I think we all are in the boat together. So I don't think that should be an automatic. When we don't know what the formula is, I know that hasn't been established. That's important for me to see. I know back when Irene and I met, they were tied to management. That's how it was, and that was separated at that point. So that was established back in '06, that no longer correlated, that one received the other. As far as the internet as well, and that, I mean, I'm fine with that. I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't know that that gives you a lot of food for thought, but those are some of my comments.
Okay, and no secret that, I agree with Irene as far as what she said, but having said that, it is sort of a special circumstance because I think we're very fortunate that we do have, even though there's no big qualifications listed, a very, very competent city clerk and a very competent city treasurer. We really lucked out. I am of the opinion that we actually should appoint a city clerk and a city treasurer going forward, and that'll take a vote of the people, but that's later on. Having said that, the automatic kind of bothers me, but given the circumstance of where we are right now, and this, in fact, I think this year, hopefully being a one-off, I would go along with the recommendation of the subcommittee in this particular case. But like I said, I think we have to be very cautious. Nobody, especially the council, knows this more than anybody else. You don't get into this elected office, especially in San Bruno, to make money. But, you know, the clerk is very well compensated, so is the treasurer, and we're very fortunate that, in fact, they do a very, very good job. The citizens should know that, you know, we could have someone in there that wasn't qualified at all, that just happened to get in there because of a fluke during an election. We would actually have to spend a lot more money to hire somebody competent to actually do the work behind the scenes. So, having said that, I will go along with the recommendation of the subcommittee.
I'm hearing recommendations, and I know we are, I'm fully supportive of recommending an increase. The question is what it is going to be and at what time does it get implemented. I believe that's enough to let any prospective candidate know that this is what your starting salary is for the first 4 years. However, there is in the hopper some discussion about the 5th year or any subsequent year after the 4th year.
If I'm understanding the consensus of the council, that is exactly as I understand it, that there would be no change except for the provision of the same benefit that the city council receives relative to the cable television services. Otherwise, for a potentially newly elected clerk or treasurer who might take office this year following the November 2013 election, there would be no change to the existing salary and benefits program. The only change that I'm hearing as a result of the subcommittee's recommendation and what appears to be a pending consensus of the city council is to consider what might happen for a elected official whose tenure continues beyond a first term, which would not be anybody who is out there in the public now who might want to take out papers. So I believe the situation is clear if I've understood you correctly.
Okay? I believe you have.
To the
Rico?
chair. So, I think that's correct. But, you know, I also, maybe just share because I was a former employee, I saw it from another side. Way before, it used to be that the city clerk and city treasurer would have to come before the podium, and some felt beg or plead and ask for their increases outside from the bargaining units. And it would sometimes cause quite a bit of emotion. You had elected people here and an elected person there, and in essence, they're elected by the people. I mean, you could argue the point, since we all talked last time about trusting everybody, is that we should have it go out to the people who actually put them in office about what ranges of salary should be and those type of compensations. However, the reason this system was set up, in my opinion, for the 4 steps automatic is because, in essence, the voters have brought them into office, the voters can take people out of office, and it also brought down, I thought, the tension level as far as having this type of dialogue between the two parties. It was contentious back then, and I remember watching some of the meetings and tearful. I mean, not on my part, but on the people that had to stand over there on that podium. So I think this is a better system, and with that system, however, comes the thought that then it can never go up because it's embedded, and every 4 years it's reviewed. So I don't think we can just, sit here in eternity and just say, well, it can't ever go up. So I think once we have a formula, once it's very well detailed and written on that, then I'm willing to review that.
If I could just close this off, there was discussion as to comparing between how the city council is afforded an increase and so to correct the vice mayor, we did get one increase in our last 18 years. And
Sorry.
and it was about $50. But it was, and we were it was a very awkward time, and it was, we didn't, as much as we, voted on it, it was very awkward to self-impose an increase. maybe that's something that the subcommittee can talk about again, is to put the formula in place and then quite possibly, have it be, have the elected official, make the proposal. I've heard from my colleagues to say that, we have to stand, with whatever the, the bargaining is with what our employees, get or don't get. And so, as much as we're not going to keep a formula, with those bargaining units, I believe that an increase is an increase, and if, heaven forbid we get some hard times again, that there probably shouldn't be an automatic.
Okay, City Manager, you have direction?
I do. This item will return to you on August 27th for an action so that it doesn't linger. But again, I believe we have adequate information to fully advise any interested candidates. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Item 10C, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Hydroscience Engineers for design of the Spyglass Drive and Marion Drive water main replacement in an amount not to exceed $47,457.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. I'm here to discuss the Spyglass Drive and Marion Drive water main improvement and replacement project. This project was identified in our water master plan as being a priority project due to the unusually high number of water leaks experienced at these mains. In 2010, JDH Corrosion Consultants identified that the corrosive conditions in the area were making the pipes corrode and leak at an accelerated rate. And the following year, remediation measures were implemented to prevent further corrosion. And these measures were effective. However, it was identified that the mains had corroded too much and that the damage was irreplaceable or irreversible, and that the mains needed to be replaced. In December of last year, a request for qualifications was sent to engineering firms that specialize in water resources, and the staff received 14 statements of qualifications, and out of the 14, 11 were interviewed. And then from the interview process, 4 were selected to be the best consultants for water main projects for the city. These 4 firms were sent requests for proposals for this replacement project, and staff received 3 proposals. Staff recommends that this project be awarded to Hydroscience Engineers in the amount of $47,457. Hydroscience Engineers, through their proposal, showed a thorough understanding of the project, an efficient execution plan at a reasonable cost. Furthermore, Hydroscience Engineers, in the last 15 years, they've successfully designed and implemented 30 to 40 main replacement projects throughout the state. And they're also our consultant for the Olympic Pump Station project.
Okay. Any questions of staff?
Through the chair.
Ken?
I have 2 concerns here. I've got the staff report almost includes these 2 streets identically, but they're not related geographically, and there's a lot of talk about corrosion. So I'm a little interested in knowing what did these consultants during their interviews say about, what measures they would take, to offset this unusual corrosion of the pipes.
The consultants, these pipes, they have ductile iron pipes, and so what they did is they installed anodes and basically cathodic protection systems, and they identified different scenarios, different metals that they could use as anodes. And they identified a certain one that was effective in helping prevent further corrosion.
Okay. Thank you. I mean, I'm not being an expert on this or anything, but I would hope that there have been some dialogue as to how we were going to offset, this unique situation.
The project manager is absolutely right. That was the solution already implemented on temporary basis to prevent further corrosion of these pipes. But also during the design will be our intent to discuss what long-term solution would need to be implemented with the design of this project, and to take an additional look what to do, how to address maybe the other pipes in the same area, how to define which are the most corrosive environment in the city, and how to address them citywide.
Any other questions of staff or action?
I'll introduce the resolution.
Vice Mayor O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item 10D, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a construction contract for the state's local partnership program street rehabilitation and reconstruction project with O'Grady Paving, Inc. in the amount of $1,604,435, approving a construction contingency of $241,000, and appropriating $400,000 Measure A funds and $400,000 gas tax funds to the project.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the Council. The city's CIP program includes the annual street rehabilitation project to repair and apply preventative maintenance treatments to the city's roadway system. The city uses a pavement management software program to optimize the use of available funds by selecting street segments, the appropriate treatments, and timing based on street conditions, funding, and street deterioration characteristics. This year's street rehabilitation program was broken into two projects: a slurry seal project, which has been recently completed, and the proposed street rehabilitation and reconstruction project. The program was broken into these two projects to ensure compliance with funding restrictions and timing requirements associated with the use of state grant funds, which will be used for this project. The list of streets that are proposed for rehabilitation and reconstruction originally consisted of 10 street segments. These 10 street segments were developed using the pavement management software, feedback from our maintenance crew, and citizen complaints. The list of 10 streets was presented to Council last October and has been reviewed by the Infrastructure Subcommittee. The street segments are listed on Attachment 3 and depicted on a map on Attachment 4. The city advertised this project on June 14th and opened bids on July 1st. 3 bids were received ranging from $1.91 million to $3.25 million. The engineer's estimate was $1.94 million. The lowest bidder, O'Grady Paving Incorporated, meets the contractor qualifications and requirements specified in our contract documents and has satisfactorily completed many overlay and reconstruction projects for public agencies in the Bay Area. The contract documents specify that 8 of the 10 streets are bid alternates in order to allow flexibility in how we award this contract. Staff is recommending rehabilitation of all of these street segments with the exception of San Bruno Avenue between Glenview Drive and Crestmore Drive, due to conflicts with the ongoing Crestmore neighborhood reconstruction project and the future Glenview Tank Number 3 replacement project. If San Bruno Avenue is excluded, the contract price would drop from $1.91 million to $1.6 million. Staff recommends appropriating the city's typical annual allocation of $800,000 for road maintenance funds to this project and award a construction contract to O'Grady Paving in the amount of $1,604,435. Any unused funds will be carried over to the next fiscal year to help fund the next street rehabilitation project. This concludes my presentation, and I'm here to answer questions.
Thank you. And pronounce your first name for me.
My name is Yoon Jun Kim. I work with the Public Services Department.
Okay, thank you very much. I just wanted to hear that pronounced because I would have butchered it, believe me. Thank you. Okay, any questions? Irene?
I don't have any questions about this. I understand what you've written in your report, and it seems very logical to me. And I apologize, I should have asked before the meeting, so if you don't know the answer, that's fine. But I've been getting questions about when we are going to do Huntington and San Antonio, and when are we going to do San Bruno Avenue from El Camino to 101. So I know there's still construction down there. I know we're not finished with the grade separation and all those things, but do we have, in general, a timeline for those two? So, yeah.
Huntington and San Antonio, those were the first in our overall priority list, and they were deferred after the grade separation project is done.
Okay.
Based on our agreement with JPB, after the construction, they will overlay major section of Huntington, depending based on the payment condition at that time. Depending of how much JPB will overlay, then is our intent to have those 3 streets, the next priority in our paving project in the next 3 years.
Okay, so people just have to be patient. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions?
Through the chair. Vice Mayor already took the first question because I've been getting those same questions as well. I know when we say the next 3 years, when you tell somebody that, that's kind of a, I know you may not be able to narrow that down any further, but it's kind of a hard pill for some to swallow to think 3 years from today. So I don't know if there's any way for us to narrow that down for a closer answer possibly. The other thing is that a few things. There is what I'd like to have explained, just so it's understood, is the contingency that we have, the $241,000 in addition to, there was another part of money for more management and other aspect, which was different from this. There's also, many people will ask, how do we come about these streets? What qualifies this street versus that street? Because in everybody's opinion, and I can understand it, there are many streets worse, and they're trying to understand what they see and what we see, and they don't think we're looking out of the same eyes. We're seeing the same thing. So for these streets that were chosen, if we can have a very quick understanding as to why they were chosen, and again on the contingency, please.
Well, these streets that were chosen for reconstruction all have a very low pavement condition index, between 0 and 65. We take in, throughout the year, we take in citizen complaints, and we also have feedback from our maintenance crew, and we develop this in conjunction with the software program for the Street Saver through the MTC, which is a requirement for any public agency to use to get grant funds in order to justify that you are using grant funds in an optimal manner and not wasting them. So we use these public feedback software program and our own visual inspections with ourselves and our crew, and we formulate the list and narrow it down with the infrastructure committee and also taking it into council.
So
the contingency is a standard 15% that we use on our construction contracts. Many times when we're doing pavement reconstruction or overlays, you can't determine exactly how much base has to be repaired until you fully dig out the street. We do estimates on what reconstruction is required based on spot sampling, doing corings on certain streets in certain locations, but you can't core all over the place. So that contingency will cover the unknowns when you actually open up the streets. And sometimes the limits of the streets, it makes sense to extend them or to retract them based upon the conditions as they are out there. By the time the inspections are done and the contract gets out, sometimes there's extra damage that was either done in between or has not been foreseen through the earlier inspections, and this contingency helps take care of that.
Jen?
So with that said, we would know, and I mean, your estimation is that if we approve this tonight, that this project would probably begin end of August and September. So I'm following along on this concern about contingencies because it's a large it's six figures. So you would know early on in the project, whether that contingency is necessary?
Not necessarily.
Or as you go from
you
street
go
to
along,
street,
and
yeah. I'm
the
sorry.
streets aren't perfectly straight, and as you're paving them and you're straightening out some of the undulations, more quantities of asphalt that you could not have calculated beforehand tend to go in there. So the contingency is determined as you go along. It's very difficult to determine it beforehand.
So I guess the concern is that not knowing what the contractor actually bid on and what those limits were, that if they exceed those limits, then they ask for additional funds out of the contingency.
I will just follow up with a few comments. On all of our construction contracts, our proposal is a standard 15% contingency for unknown condition. You will not have, or even the department will not have a clear understanding of the needed contingency for that contract until the end of conclusion of that contract. No item is paid out of contingency if was included in the initial bid document. Only just item unknown and not included in the bid document can be paid out of the contingency. Historically, only just on a very, very few projects, the department came with the initial recommendation of 20 or higher than 50%, 15% contingency, when the unknown was very high, like very congested utility area, like the Kane project was the last project when our recommendation was even higher than 15%. But the typical always for all of our project is 15. Most of the time, the contingency is not used. And you can see that with our closeout report, what will come back to you. And you see clearly listed all of the change order. And on most of the project, the contingency is left unused.
I'm going to speak for my colleagues and say, can you really highlight that at the closeout of the project?
I certainly will.
And then the only thing I would ask is when we're bringing these forward, if we can have the rating of the street and the last time work was done on that street, just so we have it within the staff report and for the public's information. Because I know you were giving the number of a 0 to 65, understanding that people do read this and go online and they're trying to understand what's good, what makes a good number, what's not, what's the average number that we have here on these street, on these. The gentleman on the subcommittee with me just also mentioned pictures speak quite a bit, so as they say, so that would also be great for future reports as well for the public's information.
Mr. Rico?
Robert Rico, 7th Avenue. Could possibly you spend just a minute and also talk about the additional not to exceed, or they're about $10,000 for, I think it's $10,000, for the inspection that the city is going to have to supply to oversee? There was in the packet, there was an additional dollar amount, $10,000 or $100,000. I forgot what the exact number was for city inspection. Thank you.
This amount that's appropriated for the project is for staff's time and our inspector to go out there on a daily basis, and our engineers, project managers' time to administer the project. Make sure that the contract is done per the specifications, make sure that the bid items are quantified, and basically just to administer the project. And
standard procedure that, I don't remember that it was always mentioned in some of the prior bids.
correct, it is a standard procedure.
Typically,
Wait, let me just, while you're going to answer that. So are these city employees that are going out to check on the work and to make sure that everything is going well, because they're already paid? So I'm not, that just, I need more clarity to understand. 'Cause I haven't always
Includes-
seen this that I recall.
All in each of our project is included the inspection and project management during construction. Is typically is the typical 10%. That is the range what is included. That the inspection can be done by city employee, or in certain instances when the resources are not enough, then can be augmented by outside support for construction inspection, and also includes certain testing what needs to be done for paving projects. And I will just elaborate a little bit to Councilmember Medina's prior question, that the PCI is included is on our website with the listing of each of streets. Everybody can check the PCI rating on their street. And also included in the next 5 years. The next 5 years proposed paving projects are listed on our website, and they have the PCI listed on that list also. And based on our research, the data is available only just beginning 97. Since 97, no work, based on our on the information available, no work was done on these 9 streets since 97.
Any other questions or action by the council?
I'll introduce the resolution.
Vice Mayor O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item 10E, receive a report on the fire department's fire hose replacement program and replacement of fire hose for fire engines.
Honorable Mayor and City Council members, I'm here tonight to give a report. Can you hear me? On the fire replacement, hose replacement program per the City Council's request. In the past, San Bruno's Fire Department, past practice has been to replace hose when it was damaged or didn't pass its annual test. This practice, although proven to be ineffective and inefficient, is one that most departments followed in regards to fire hose. Most departments until recently extended the life of the fire hose as long as it passed its annual test. So unlike most agencies throughout the county, we stretched the hose out for as long as we could. However, NFPA 1961, which regulates the use and replacement of fire hose, recently amended its standards, which recommends fire hose replacement every 12 years. Additionally, our neighboring jurisdictions throughout the county are standardizing hose on engines based on quantity, color, and diameter for more efficient and safe fireground operations. After a comprehensive review of our fire hose inventory, we have found that approximately 50% of our hose is out of compliance with replacement recommendations on all 4 of our engines, 2 frontline engines and 2 reserves. In your packets as a visual, because I know some council members are a little more visual than others, I've included some photos of different fire engines. The photos attached show examples of our own San Bruno engines and one of the Milbray engines. Probably the main differences between the two are the color-coded attack lines and the 5-inch large diameter hose, where San Bruno has 4-inch. If you look at some of our engines, mainly 51, 52 in our reserve, you'll see that a lot of the hose, especially the 2.5-inch supply line, dates back to 1978. This is the hose that's probably most in dire need of replacement. During this past budget process, we were able to address, I think, our hose replacement needs by increasing the budget to $55,000 for the fiscal year 13-14. This is an increase from the previous 2 years of $2,500 in 11-12 and $12,300 in 12-13. This increased allocation of funds will outfit our top 2 frontline engines with new, compliant, and standardized fire hose. The department will request to replace the additional hose over the next 2 budget cycles, which will take care of our reserve engines. This plan parallels replacement plans for other equipment that we have, such as turnouts. As in turnouts, firefighters are required to have 2 sets rather than buy 2 sets at the same time. We space it over 5 years so that they have 1 set in use for 5 years. Those go to a backup, and then they get a new set for another 5 years. So they have 1 set that's new for 5 years, a second set that goes into a backup status. That'll be the same kind of concept that we'll have for the fire hose, where it'll be on the top line engines for the first half of its life and then go to the reserves. The department feels that this is an effective and efficient replacement plan moving forward and should address the department's and the council's concerns regarding safe fire hose. At this point, I'll be glad to answer any questions you have regarding the replacement plan for fire hose.
Thank you, Dave. Any questions? Rico?
Through the chair, thank you for the visuals.
You're
You
welcome.
could have also brought the fire truck. That would have been even better. But, yeah. I've read the report, and I've checked on some of this with the county, as far as with the other committee I serve on. It's safe to say with the 55,000, that helps bring us to, as I understand, satisfactory, adequate. It's a request for 25,000 next budget cycle, 25,000 next budget cycle. So I sit up here and say, well, I guess you could argue the point either way, to be fair, whether to increase or continue on this with the 55 that was spent. To me, I don't know that I can predict the future. I don't know where the city's budget will be in 2 years. I know that the city, I believe, can afford it today. I believe it takes us from a standard and adequate to maybe being proactive and prepared. I believe, as we saw almost 3 years ago, as we saw at the airport, then we had to go to Redwood City for a 6 alarm. You never know what is needed when it's needed. So I sit up here and saying, if I have to argue either way, I would go on the side of being prepared and spending resources where they benefit and value the community that I represent and have to answer to. So, in my opinion, I believe spending an additional $25,000, which was what Chief Lattis had suggested, if there was any type of an increase of, would be that. Therefore, there can be an additional either request the next budget cycle, and then we should be up to par and back where we should be, which is not standard or adequate, but prepared.
Anyone else? Ken?
I concur. If that's the recommendation, and if that's something that could be proposed by the department to come back, for the $25,000 increase, and I'd be in favor of that.
Irene?
I'm sorry, I'm confused. Are you saying in addition to the $55,000 for this budget,
I am.
another $25,000? Oh, okay. Do you want to make that as a motion?
Well, I think we're just receiving a report tonight, right?
We're returning to you with information. The report explains and provides additional detail regarding the recommendation that staff has already made through the budget, and which has been approved by the City Council. You retain the authority, should you wish to make a change to the adopted budget at any time. And certainly, if you need more information, we're happy to return with that information.
So I'm asking for a resolution to be brought back at the next meeting for the increase of $25,000 for a purchase of additional hose to this year's budget.
I concur also.
Through the chair, I have a question, actually.
Yeah.
Is the purchase of the hose something that we could plan for in an equipment reserve so that we have a steady yearly allocation to it rather than a one-time cost that has to be sort of, kind of comes out of band for the rest of the budget? So could we do something like that going forward?
Yeah, it's something that we're looking at to do inventory of all equipment, engines, all equipment, so that we can get a better cost allocation over a period of time of the lifespan, and then plan accordingly on a year-by-year basis on a maintenance, so that we don't have these large, budget requests, on a one-time or two cycle basis. So yeah, we are planning on better budgeting on a maintenance schedule to answer your question.
Okay. Yeah, and it seems like now that we have a 12-year guideline that we can kind of plan toward, then it makes
Exactly.
it a little easier to do.
That's what our plan is.
Through the chair, just because the mayor and I serve on the fire subcommittee, and the chief can correct me, but what they're also doing with the shared administrative is they're, for the first time, looking at it as a whole, the three agencies, and seeing what is needed, what is had, and so we could work more as a team in purchasing and projecting and seeing what resources we have instead of every city doing their own thing. So that is also a step that is now underway, which will hopefully improve things.
Okay, do you have the information you need?
Okay.
See you next.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the report. Item 10F, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement between the San Bruno Park School District and the City of San Bruno to provide a reimbursable after-school education and safety program, ACES, at Allen Elementary School for school years 2013-14 through 2015-16.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm Danielle Brewer with the Community Services Department. Before you tonight is the resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement between the San Bruno Park School District and the city to operate the After-School Education and Safety Program, ACES, at Allen Elementary School for the next 3 years. In 2010, Allen School received a grant to offer a free after-school program to students. Because the city was operating a successful after-school program on site, they requested that we be the service provider for the ACES program. The program has been very successful for the past 3 years with approximately 100 participants, and Allen School and the school district is requesting we provide the service delivery of the ACES program for the next 3 years. This item was on the June 25th City Council agenda. At that time, there was uncertainty regarding if the ACES program would be subject to the school district's newly adopted user fee program. As a result, the item was tabled. Staff met with the school district chief business officer on June 26 to receive information regarding the proposed user fees. At that meeting, a draft fee schedule was presented for input and discussion. Based on the proposed schedule, the cost for the 5 classrooms at Allen School and the 4 classrooms at Bel Air School would be approximately $133,000. Following the meeting, staff spoke with the chief business officer and advised that if it would be financially unfeasible for the program revenues to absorb the additional expense. On July 18th, the city received confirmation from the chief business officer that the ACES program would be recommended for exemption from the classroom rental fees. Since the program is grant-funded and is directly related to this and for the benefit of the school, the exemption would be recommended. If the agreement is executed, the city will continue to provide the staff resources, materials, and equipment necessary to conduct the program. Based on staff's understanding of the district's intent, the district will provide the facilities for the program as well as encourage students to enroll in the program. This program will continue to accommodate 100 participants per year. The school district will reimburse the city monthly for the cost to deliver the program, including staff and supplies. Consistent with the prior year, staff expects the program revenue will be sufficient to fully reimburse the city of the delivery of the program, as well as indirect costs associated with supervision and administration of the program. The district currently plans to implement the new fee schedule effective October 2013. In the event the school district does not exempt the ACES program from the facility use fees, the proposed agreement between the school district and the city specifies that it may be terminated by either party within 30 days with written notice. At this time, the staff recommends to adopt the resolution.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Ken?
I just have to highlight, so get this straight. The school district is awarded a grant to provide after-school services at their facilities. They contract with the city to provide the services, and then they want to charge rent for it.
They're saying that they will not.
Initially.
Initially, yes, initially, correct.
And you're still cautious because they may still want to implement it. Really.
Could I just be clear? We're still cautious because there has been no final action by the school board on the fee schedule itself. This district board has taken action to approve a program, but the actual implementation of the fees and the fee amounts have only been discussed, and they have not been formally acted on by the school board. So we our first conversation with district staff suggested that this program would not be exempted essentially from any fees that are eventually imposed. Our next conversations identified differently. So we are just, no final action has been taken, and we just wanted to provide you with the most current information because we do not believe that it is a sustainable contractual arrangement for the city to continue to engage if the fees as proposed would be applied to this program. So we just wanted to let you know that we have an option to terminate the contract if unexpectedly the school district acts in a way that would subject the program to the fees.
Okay. Anyone else? Any action on this item?
I'll introduce the resolution.
Vice Mayor O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item 11, we have already heard from the Planning Commission. Item number 12, comments from council members. Anyone have anything? There's a commemoration, recognition of a commemoration, I believe, coming up that everyone should be aware of. And June 25th, 1950 was the beginning of the Korean War, and it ended on July 27th, coming up 1953. It's often referred to as the Forgotten War, and we should remember this. In fact, it hits a little home here because one of our former council members, Chris Pallas's brother, was in fact Ted Pallas was a POW during that war. So I just want to make people aware of it and think about it on the 27th. Thank you. We will be going into closed session. And the closed session is a conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1, Vistiga versus City of San Bruno, San Mateo County Superior Court Case CIV 517956. And this meeting will be adjourned until our next regular city council meeting, August 27th, right here at the Senior Center.